go.
Thank you, Sebastian. I hope you can hear me and that everybody can hear well as well. I'm very pleased to participate to this seminar. I'd like to thank the organizer for having me, and I'm particularly interested in hearing also the comment from all from the other panelists and from the participants to this webinar on this important question: does green growth contribute to poverty reduction? And that's a question which is particularly interesting for us in the European Commission, in the DG DEVCO in particular, since our work on development cooperation, our mandate really is to contribute to eradicate poverty. Perhaps some of you working at project level and in Switch Asia look at see the program as an opportunity for business development or to achieve environmental objectives. But for us, again, within DG DEVCO, that's achieving poverty reduction is really, again, our mandate. It is in this context that we finance programs such as Switch Asia. So it's really important for us to be able to answer this question. And I think the answer to this question is not straightforward at all. So that's why I think it's really interesting to ask this good question. And the message I want to pass basically is, first of all, yes, green growth can contribute to poverty reduction through job creation, for example, employment, but also through other aspects which I'll cover. But green growth can also have some adverse effects on the poor, certainly. And for us in DG DEVCO, it's important to also to include some pro-poor measures and really understand and assess the impact on the poor of our work on green growth and on sustainable consumption and production in particular, since this is really the main focus of our cooperation on green economy through the Switch Asia program in particular, which all of you know well, but also through other similar programs in the Mediterranean region or in Africa, for example. So let me now start with the slides. Just an overview. I will start with some information on EU development policy and on green growth and poverty eradication in particular. So that's the policy related part of what Sebastian presented. I think it's important also to share our perspective on the economic case which encourages the switch to green growth globally, and I will then discuss some of the key benefits we see on the Commission side from green growth for the poor, and discuss as well some of the adverse effects which I briefly mentioned. So let's start with the EU development policy. There is overall a growing attention to green growth in EU development policy, and more specifically to green economy. That's the term we prefer. You probably heard many different development agencies or international organizations have with their own definition of green growth or green economy. Some have a particular emphasis on economic growth, some others on social issues, others more on environmental objectives. In the EU, we try to have a balanced emphasis on all these different dimensions of sustainable development in our development policy. We have a document called Agenda for Change, which presents the overarching framework for EU development policy and how it is implemented, which makes explicit reference to green economy that generates growth, creates jobs, and helps reduce poverty. I didn't include all the definition in my slides, because it's a bit long, but on the EU side, really, there's a balanced emphasis on economic growth, environmental objectives, and social aspects. After the Rio +20 conference in 1992, there's been more commitments from the Commission on towards international cooperation on green economy. You all certainly know that there's an ongoing debate on the post-2015 agenda and the formulation of new goals, the Sustainable Development Goals that should follow the earlier Millennium Development Goals in all EU communications and contributions to this agenda, there's been a strong emphasis on green economy again. And we also see in some of our recent communications on engaging better with the private sector, for example, but also in other areas, a consistent attention to green economy in all these different areas. So I would say overall, EU development policy does give a strong basis to encourage green economy in developing countries. It's still at the same time, this is still a relatively new concept. And there's still much more work to be done to translate these policy level commitments into our programming, into concrete actions. This is illustrated by the Switch Asia program, but I would say in other areas of our development cooperation, and more is needed to raise awareness. And I think that's something, well, within the Commission, but in other development agencies, in partner countries as well, where there is really a need to better communicate about the results and the importance of green economy, which remains seen, I believe, by many of our stakeholders as a niche area, or some others see it still as something which is only a niche for rich countries. This is not our position at policy level in the Commission. However, as I said, I think there is a strong effort to make to better communicate the importance of green economy. There are many reasons why we think green economy is indeed an important pathway to eradicate poverty. One of it is the macroeconomic context. There's been an increased knowledge over the last years as a result of studies on the cost of environment degradation, for example, on natural capital accounting, or studies such as the economics of ecosystems and biodiversity, which really show that environment degradation is not just a matter of it's not just an environmental problem, it's increasingly an economic problem. Some of these studies have showed the importance of the cost of environment degradation for countries. Taking a specific example, in Asia, for example, the ADB estimated last year that failing to address climate change could cost up to 9 points of GDP per year to countries in South Asia by the end of the century. And that's just one of the environmental impacts that we see today. We also see some growing risk with polluting sectors. There's a campaign, for example, for a couple of years now on the assets of the fossil fuel industry, which some think are perhaps stranded because of forthcoming policies on climate change. And the conclusion of these studies, like the economics of ecosystems and biodiversity, is very much that measures that address environmental issues early on are more cost-effective than measures that fail to do so. So at macroeconomic level, there are very strong reasons to move towards for the transition to a greener economy. This, some of you may not see it as a direct issue to address poverty. However, if we look at the example of China, for example, which many view as one of the country which has been the most successful in lifting people out of poverty, it's difficult to ignore the fact that economic growth and dynamic economy at least provides an important context to generate investments, green investments, social investments that can then contribute to eradicate poverty. And on the other hand, in a context of a stagnation or economic crisis, it's very difficult to have these necessary investments and therefore to reasonably expect some reduction of poverty. So that's really the macroeconomic context. But if we look more at macro issues and the situation for businesses, I think it's also important to see that the sector of environmental goods and services is growing rapidly. It's growing much faster than the rest of the economy, as it's been demonstrated in several studies. We also see that in a context of resources scarcity, which is increasingly the case, more efficient resources, more efficient production processes is increasingly a competitive advantage. So we do see also at the policy level some support, some initiatives supporting the trade in environmental goods and services. The APEC agreement, for example, to reduce tariffs, and a recent initiative from the EU called the Green Good Initiatives, which targets similar objectives. So we see not only driving force from the private sector, from the consumer, a growing interest in environmental goods and services, and support policies from governments in that direction. So I think at business level there is really a strong case encouraging the switch to greener practices. So we now talk about the main benefits as we see them from green economy to contribute to address poverty. And I was reading some of the comments in one of the windows of the screen before the webinar starts, and I saw many comments or reactions from the participants referring to job creation. And indeed, for us, that appears to be the main contribution from green growth to poverty reduction. And I'd like to substantiate this comment by referring to our domestic policy in the EU, not necessarily our development cooperation policy. And in the EU, well, it's been creating jobs through green growth, resource efficiency is something which has been prominent in EU growth strategy, which we call Europe 2020. There's been a significant increase in job in green sectors, which we call green jobs, since 2010. And what is interesting is that the number of green jobs has continued to accelerate significantly, even during the period of crisis, which shows the resilience of these sectors. And despite ups and downs, it's something which has been important for the EU. And there's still a lot of hope from the EU and support policies in that direction to accelerate the creation of green jobs in the coming years. The EU expects up to 20 million jobs to be created by 2020 in green economy sectors. And I think it's important to see that, well, we preach poverty eradication through job creation and green growth in developing countries. And if you look at EU's own growth strategy, Europe 2020, it's exactly the same. It refers a lot to job creation and to poverty eradication in the EU. We see other benefits besides job creation to address poverty eradication, and that's through, it's a bit less direct, but it's through reduced exposure to environment degradation. The poor tend to be more vulnerable because mostly they have less capacities to adapt to environmental hazards like climate change, but also to adapt to or to reduce their exposure to problems such as air, water, food pollution. They also have less access to medical care, obviously. So the environment degradation is less an issue for the rich people, but for the poor, that's really something that affects, that increases their vulnerability, that undermines their resilience. So protecting ecosystems, the natural environment, is something that also helps the poor, even if it's not in the form of direct salaries or cash to the poor. It's important also to note that the poorest rely a lot on natural resources. In countries like Indonesia, the number of people who are depending on forest resources, for example, or on fisheries for their income and for their livelihoods is really important. So preventing the degradation of these resources also helps address poverty. As I said in my introduction, we also see potential issues or adverse effects on the poor from the green economy transformation. If you take the example of fiscal reforms and the issue of fuel subsidies, it's a fact that at macroeconomic level, many of these subsidies do not make much sense. Nevertheless, some of the poor rely on the subsidies for their transport, and the reduction of the subsidies has often led to an increase in the prices of basic commodities. So it's important also when you plan this kind of reforms, which indeed are essential for the green economy transition, it's important to anticipate with proper measures. And I think it's not just a matter of social justice or poverty reduction, it's also a matter of political acceptance of these reforms. It's very difficult to pass this kind of reforms without proper measures. For the poor or the companies or the individuals with less capacities, it's also more difficult to adapt to new standards promoting sustainable practices, for example. I think experience shows that growth alone does not necessarily address problems such as inequalities. We do see a need to support, to promote proper measures in our cooperation activities. And I would like to give a few examples of what of some of these measures which we include in our cooperation activities and which I believe may be relevant for some of the projects financed under Switch Asia. First of all, assessing the impact of different measures on vulnerable groups. It's not always obvious the impact on the group, so it's important to make this kind of assessments. Securing rights to land and property and access to natural resources, I would add, building resistance to disasters, ensuring proper access, balanced access to vocational training, education. These are some of the key measures we support in the EU to create green jobs. For example, so that's also a matter. It's important to ensure equality and access to this. Facilitating access to energy and water, ensuring that green jobs are also decent jobs. It doesn't go necessarily together. We have made some commitments to promote decent jobs, so that's also something that requires attention. Give attention to the informal economy, which is the largest employer in many developing countries. So these are some of the additional measures which we think are important. I think I've used all the time I had just to conclude and to reiterate my main messages. We see the green economy transition really as something, as an opportunity to address poverty globally. And which creates the right context for poverty eradication. Job creation is certainly the main driver to lift people out of poverty from green economy, but there are other indirect benefits. And finally, we also see potential adverse effects, hence the need of proper measures, which we try to integrate in our different cooperation programs. So that's about it. I see already there's been a lot of questions raised, and I understand we have time for Q&A a bit after the next presentation. So I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion with all of you.